Hello and welcome to Noel's RetroLab. Today we're going to be looking at this Amstrad CPC 464. It was sent to me by Leo Albonisi, one of my Patreon supporters. He bought it off eBay UK and had it shipped directly to me. So our goal today is going to be to restore this computer and leave it in tip-top shape so I can mail it back to Leo and he can start using it right out of the box. The Amstrad looks to be in pretty good condition. It looks like the original 464 model with the longboard inside. The tape deck area often gets scratched up, but it's in pretty good shape. It looks like the tape counter reset button is broken though. That's very, very common. Hopefully we can put a replacement later. Other than that, there's this scratch over here that we probably won't be able to do anything about, but everything else is great. So I noticed during the mail day that this Amstrad already comes with what I thought was the audio mod. This particular model has a built-in tape deck, and because of that, they chose not to have an audio jack in, I guess just to save some money and because they thought it was unnecessary. Well, it turns out that actually you often want to have an audio jack in nowadays if you want to load games from a TZX Duino or your smartphone or something like that, or from a computer. So a pretty common mod on this computer is to add an audio jack that is connected to the right place to be able to do that. And that's something I was planning on doing, except that I saw that it already came with it. Well, I realized afterwards that this doesn't look like a normal audio jack. This has that connector in the middle, so this looks more like a DC jack. If so, I might want to look into replacing it with a regular audio jack connector, and then I'll have to see that the audio mod is done correctly. But as usual, before we power it on or anything like that, let's open it up and make sure that everything looks good inside first. By the way, this is one of those tips of things that are usually out of view and I don't talk about, but people seem to like those little tricks, so I figure I'd share with you now. When I'm opening up a computer, I like to have a little container like this. It has multiple small subcontainers for the different screws. That way I can separate the case screws from the motherboard screws, from tape deck screws. And this one is great because then you can actually, it has a lid, you can close it and store it somewhere. And not only are they not getting mixed together, but if it gets bumped accidentally, you don't lose everything. So this is very handy. I will always have one of those just out of view as I'm opening up a computer. Okay, now I have to be careful opening this because if this is an audio mod or whatever it is, chances are it may have some cables soldered from this to the board directly. So we'll see how professionally it was done. Okay, so what I thought was the audio in mod is this. It's not connected to anything. That's pretty weird. And the tape deck itself, it shows some signs of a little corrosion and some dirt, but nothing really obvious where they would have connected things from there before. So I wonder if this was, I wonder if this was like a 12 volt in for something else. And what about the main board? Yeah, so I figured this is the old board. This is the long one, which is honestly much more comfortable to work with. It's just all the RAM, it's nicely spaced out, and look at those like logic chips are like so separate, so nice. So to note, it has the later gate array. This is the 40,010 as opposed to the 40,007. And oh yeah, so this is a really cool model of the board because you can take either one of them. And you can also take either kind of keyboard connector, either the new one with ribbons or the old kind for the tall keys one that has actual cables. The board looks to be in just really good condition. You can tell this is a little dirty or a little corroded, but that's easy to fix. Another thing to check is the DC jack and the video connector. Make sure that they're both sturdy because they will often have dry joints after a lot of pressure put in connecting things and disconnecting things, but they both look really good. So yeah, I suspect this is gonna work just as it is. So the back is also looking really good. It just has a lot of flux residue, but that's totally normal. And I don't see any signs of any major repairs, or at least if there were some, they were really well done. So yeah, this board is looking great. So let's try powering it up and see if it works. So we need to connect a 5-volt DC jack and the RGB video out, but that's not enough. If we turn it on right now, nothing is going to happen. And that's because the computer has a switch, and the switch is connected off of this. So unless we close that circuit, the board is not going to be powered on. Now, it's kind of a pain to connect the switch, especially because it's not even in the bottom case, it's in the top case. So what I have is a little tool in my toolkit, because I work a lot with this model, Amstrad, which is the exact same connector that would go there with the 2 cables that would be connected with the switch already wired together. Just by plugging that there, now whenever we power the board, everything will work. And okay, that was easy. We're done. Not quite, but it's a really good start. One of my favorite expansions for the Amstrad is the Dandanator. You'll see me use it in a lot of Amstrad repairs. It comes with a fairly basic sort of Diagnostics ROM, but of course, let's put the Diagnostics ROM I created a few weeks ago, which is much more comprehensive, and we can use that to make sure that everything else on this board is working okay, or at least the things that we can check with the ROM. One of the main downsides of using a Dandanator for the test ROM is that you actually need a working Amstrad in order to upload a new ROM to the Dandanator. It was a design decision made probably not thinking of this primarily as a test ROM device, but I wish there was a way to just upload a new test ROM without needing to connect it anywhere. But anyway, we'll try to do everything with this Amstrad, and since it's working, that's great. What I'm going to have to do is clean the expansion port to make sure that this works correctly. My favorite way of cleaning those contacts is with a fiberglass pencil. They sell these in art stores. I'm not sure exactly what they do with them, but they work like a charm on those kind of edge contacts. If you use one of these pencils, do not touch that little dust that comes off with your fingers. You'll get your fingers itching for days. I've done that, trust me. And we'll finish it off with some isopropyl alcohol. Yeah, that's great. The underside, usually you don't have to do anything. Maybe we'll pass the alcohol. Because it's facing down, things don't tend to, maybe dust doesn't tend to stick to it, and is usually corrosion free. So let's make sure the Dandanator works, and if it does, then we'll load up our custom ROM. Okay, that's perfect. Some things are grayed out, but that's because they are for 128K, so you could only use those games in there. Okay, so the important thing is that this is working. So now let's replace this with our custom ROM with whatever games. I'll ask Leo what games he wants, but most importantly, I can put in my own Diagnostics ROM right there. So for this, we're going to need some kind of computer. So this is my Windows laptop. We'll start connecting the Dandanator to the computer with a USB cable. Now on the ROM generator, I load an existing ROM. But most importantly, I need to go in Preferences and select the second tab, and then change the extra ROM. That's what the Dandanator is going to use as a test ROM. So I pick my own, and that part of it is done. I just realized I also need a keyboard on the Amstrad, so I need to plug in the keyboard. And now with the Dandanator connected and the Amstrad powered on, I press L to load the new ROM. And then on the ROM generator, I need to click that tiny button to tell it to upload the ROMs. And now we need to wait for a couple of minutes that we're just going to fast forward through it. And that's it. All the contents of the ROM should be in the Dandanator and ready to go. All right, so let's launch the Diagnostics ROM. So to do that, we press the leftmost button while we power on the board. And there you go. That means it's testing the lower RAM. And okay, everything passes. So right now we can't do any other tests because we don't have the keyboard connected. So I actually made it work with a joystick just for this situation. So I'm gonna plug in a joystick. There you go. The joystick is a lot more convenient than plugging in the whole keyboard. So let's do that again. Okay, and now in the main menu, there should be no upper RAM. Yeah, obviously, this is a 64K computer. And let's check the ROMs while we're at it. Yep, it detects the lower ROM and the upper ROM too. Perfect. System info has a CRT-C type 0. That's the most common one. That's great. And then the soak test is something that it can just sit there and stress test the board if we suspect there could be some RAM problems or some other kind of problems as the board heats up. So this is going to go through the sequence of testing lower RAM, upper RAM, testing the ROMs, and then just not stopping. So we can leave this running while we start looking at the case and just cleaning it up and restoring it. Now that we know that the computer is working correctly, let's turn our attention to the case. It was already in pretty good condition, but with a little bit of TLC, we can leave it looking as good as new. The case itself is in great condition, but I'll go ahead and remove the keyboard and the tape deck, that way we can clean it really well. And there's the broken counter reset button for the tape, the one that breaks all the time. Hopefully we can replace that. And check out how handy this box is. How I'm able to put the different screws in different compartments, and it even gives you an idea of the order. I'm filling them left to right. So the ones I took from the tape deck are these ones. These are the keyboard ones. So it's really good to organize it this way. Otherwise it can be kind of overwhelming if you get all the screws mixed up. The keyboard is really clean, so I don't think I'm going to take out the keys. Instead, let's open up the back of the keyboard and access the main brain. That always gets dirty, and it's good to give it a quick clean. Yeah, there you go. You see all that dirt in there. A quick brushing, and this is as good as new. Same with this, but let's actually apply a little bit of cleaner just to get all the dirt out. Before we put the keyboard back in the case, let's use the keyboard testing feature of the Diagnostics ROM. So I have it hooked up to the board just like this. Clearly I can't put it there, otherwise it will short everything. But we can go to keyboard, and now we can just test and make sure that all the keys work okay. Now this is that was designed for the 6128, that particular keyboard. So there will be, oh no, actually you can press them all. That one, yep, perfect. So clearly all the keys work fine. And those are just the joystick over there. So great. We can do some light cleaning of the case. I'm going to remove the window because I want to clean it separately and maybe try to remove some of the scratches. The logo itself has a little bit of a texture, and it always manages to catch a little bit of dirt, so that needs a little extra scrubbing with just a toothbrush. Much better. The tape deck cover usually gets pretty scratched up. This one is pretty good. When they get really scratched up, I usually just put a replacement. Here I'm going to clean it a little bit. Has a few scratches. So in this case, what I like to use is one of those car scratch removal, because this is probably like slightly abrasive. Just enough that when you rub it on and it dries up a little bit, it removes a lot of those fine scratches. So the idea is just to smear it. I'm just doing one side for now. and keep doing it until it starts drying out and kind of going away. Like that, and then same thing on the other side. Yeah, it's a little messy. Now, when most of the goop is gone, we can use a dry cloth to remove the last little bit and really buff it. So we didn't get rid of the scratch there in the middle, but still, it looks much, much better. So the case looks very clean now, but it looks a little dull after all that cleaning and maybe all that time, and maybe a little uneven. I don't know if you can see how it's a little darker there and a little lighter there, and it's all dry, so that's not it. So usually in that case, what I do is, this is sort of my secret weapon for restoring things. This is a car dashboard protectant, and I don't know exactly what it has, but it's kind of like the magic touch. It seems to hydrate the plastic, and then supposedly it also protects it against UV, and so I think it just makes plastics in general last longer. So for now, I'm just going to spread this all over the case and then let it sit for a few minutes while it sort of soaks in all the oils and stuff. We'll do the bottom of the case as well. All right, after a few minutes, you can see there are places that the cream was mostly soaked in, and so now the goal is to remove any leftovers, just roughly with a paper towel. That's fine, and then we'll buff it down with a dry rag. Yeah, this didn't soak in very much. The plastic wasn't very thirsty. Sometimes you need to do a whole second pass because you put some and it's just instantly sucked in by the plastic. And now a final pass with a rag. Any bits that get stuck in the grill here, just use a toothbrush to get them out. That's looking great now. So let's put the computer back inside. I was trying to avoid doing this, but now that we have the case so clean, these keys don't look so clean anymore. If you look closely, there's a little bit of dirt in there, and it just becomes really obvious when you put it next to the really pristine case. So I guess we're removing them. I'll just go through that really quickly. Yeah, it wasn't super dirty, but this looks so much better. All right, back in the case it goes. And let's not forget the cover of the tape deck. Yeah, looking so much better. So the Amstrad is working and it's looking great already. We still need to service the tape deck and do the audio in mod, so we'll save that for next episode. Today I'm going to finish things off a little differently. Leo told me he's mostly interested in platformers and space shooter games, so I prepared a ROM for the Dandanator for him to introduce him to some of those games that I consider the best ones for the Amstrad, and I threw in a few classics that are sort of must-plays as well. If you're interested in that, stick around because I will be playing through those really quickly during and after the credits. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If so, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Until next video, see you then. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting Noel's Retro Lab on Patreon or joining the membership on YouTube. Not only is that the best way to support this channel and allow me to continue making more videos, but you also get some extra perks like early access, ad-free videos, and more. Thank you again to all the supporters. See you next time.